If you want to get selected, you need to train smart. And the greatest myth that I hear is that more training means better results. The truth is, training too much will actually kill your gains. And this is because training volume and gains follow an inverted U-curve. It's not linear, where the more you do, the better results you get. So that's why I'm going to walk you through how to achieve better results in less time, including walking through a free minimalist program at the end of the video. But before we start, I want to share a word of encouragement to those of you who are struggling to get results or find time to train. There is actually a 3-currency framework to training, and the good news is, once you understand it, you'll realize the solution is simpler than you think, and time is probably not your problem. The 3 currencies in your training are focus, which is mental, energy, which is physical, and third is time. Each one is finite. There's only a certain amount you can expend in a given day, and if one of those first 2 buckets of mental focus or physical energy are zapped, your training sessions will suffer. Or if you run out of time, you're just not going to make it to the gym in the first place. So physical energy and time are self-evident, but I want to highlight mental focus because it is the most underrated and overlooked aspect of training. Just think, how often have you arrived at the gym and could barely muster the energy to get under the bar, and once you did, your training just felt off? For a lot of people, this is a common occurrence. But then, think about your sessions where you were firing on all cylinders. You walked in with a mission and just attacked your session. I want that to be a reality every single day. And it's possible if you have mental clarity. So I'll get to maximizing your training time in a minute, but first, here are 3 tips to overcoming that sluggish, low energy state. First is to organize your day with the most demanding tasks first. So stop training at night when you're exhausted and drained, and get up early to hit your runs and lifts. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say you'll feel energized after a brutal leg session. You probably won't. And the truth is, your school or work may suffer a bit, but you need to choose what you want to prioritize and put that first. Second is getting deep, restorative sleep, so your mental battery will be fully charged upon waking, instead of operating at 70% or less throughout the day like most people do. You've already heard the basics of sleeping in a cool, dark room and getting 7 hours minimum each night, but let me be clear about what you should not be doing to maximize your sleep. Stop keeping your phone within arm's reach at night. Stop having large fluctuations in the time you go to bed, and stop taking caffeine anytime after 12 p.m. Avoid those 3, and your sleep and performance will improve. The third and most underrated step is to learn to shut your brain off and disconnect. And this does not mean that you have to meditate or stop being productive at school or work, especially if you have an anxious, overactive mind, which is common in the social media age. You need to find ways to get your mind off of training at all costs. The person who spends all day overanalyzing his routine, his technique, and getting nervous over his performance is far worse off than the guy who commits to his program, executes with confidence and focus, and carries on with the rest of his day. This is why I strongly oppose this idea that you need to quit your job or school to train. It is an easy excuse to tell yourself that you're not making progress because you have other commitments. But what I've found is that people who do more get more done, and finding more time to train is only going to help you if time is your current limiter. So fall out of the trap that says training needs to be your entire life to make progress, and put yourself in a state where you can achieve true focus and mental clarity. Now that we've discussed the importance of focus, let's talk about how to improve your results while training the same amount of time or even less. I'll assume you're targeting a sub 1250 2-mile run, a 275-pound squat, and 335-pound deadlift. Once you have your goal, you need to determine how much time you are willing and able to train. But let's err on the side of fewer hours, because a plan created on your most optimistic projections is destined to fail. So let's go with 6 hours per week. With that, we can now look at the various buckets in your training, like strength, running, walking, and calisthenics, and see how best to allocate your time to maximize your progress. There's 2 drivers of performance improvement which we need to optimize. One is specificity, which is basically practice, improving technique, and getting comfortable with a movement. Second is physiological adaptations. These are the processes like improved mitochondrial output or capillarization, which improve your aerobic conditioning, your run performance. What we need to find is the minimum effective dose to elicit those skill and physiological improvements. And here are some general minimum landmarks that you should be hitting in your training to make progress. For strength, I found you need to do a movement at least once per week for at least 2 working sets to make progress. For hypertrophy, muscle building, you'll want to hit at least 5 hard sets per week, generally, to build muscle. For running, at least 90 minutes per week, I find has been necessary to improve. And for rucking, you could improve with 0 minutes. minutes, so long as your run and strength work is on point. But also 30 minutes per week can work as well, specifically with interval sessions that I talk about in the comprehensive rocking guide video. Now, if you're more advanced though, you'll need to do a lot more work than this. So don't think this is what you're going to be doing in the lead up to selection. It's certainly not. The point is, if you're attacking your sessions with intensity and focus, you can improve with far less volume than you realize. Now, for everybody here who is questioning this logic, let's do a test and see what kind of intensity you're bringing to your current gym sessions. Watch the footage on the screen and tell me at what rep would you stop your set. If it's after rep 7, 8, 9, or 10, congratulations, you are the exception. But if you're stopping at rep 6 or prior, that means most of the sets you're doing in the gym are just a warm-up. And that's okay if you have all day to train and don't care about getting results. But hitting those final reps are not easy. That is exactly why you need to be mentally sharp to push hard. And it's not just in the gym. Running is even harder because you're holding a painful pace for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus minutes on your timed runs. So now I hope you can understand how someone who does 10 hours per week of so-called training with little intensity or focus will be outdone by somebody who does 7 or even 5 hours of hard training per week. But this raises the question, how much volume should you be doing? What's tricky about training volume is that everyone is different with their own unique history and background. For instance, a football player will have a different baseline than a cross-country runner. So the previously mentioned minimum volume landmarks are just that, minimums. But until you start training, there is no formula to determine what amount of volume you require to improve. In that way, it's like shooting an arrow at a target you can't see. So I err on the side of less. Say you're improving your 2-mile time with just 2 hours of running per week across 2 sessions, across 2 runs, and a single ruck. You might as well stay there and ride out those gains. And then once you start to see progress taper off, then you can add more. Listen very closely to this. Training volume is the most potent lever you can pull to keep the gains coming. So that's why you should be very cautious before pulling it. And here's the volume paradox. Let's bring back the inverted U-curve we discussed at the very beginning of the video. Imagine you were making great gains at 2 hours per week of running, and instead of waiting to increase your volume, you quickly ramped it up to 5 hours. You could be making relatively similar results running 5 hours per week as running 2. But then when your results start to plateau, you've already increased your volume so much that you don't have the option to increase volume to drive further adaptations. Or even if you did, your results might be even worse. This is just one of the many reasons why in your training you want to stay on the left side of the curve, at least when you're farther out from selection. This scenario changes significantly from 10 to 12 weeks out. So with that, here is a sample training routine. On Monday, we have a full body circuit and sprints for a total of 90 minutes. Tuesday is an easy zone 2 jog for 45 minutes. Wednesday is a 45-minute tempo run. Thursday is an hour-long full body strength session, and Saturday is a 90-minute zone 2 run. In total, this is only 5.5 hours per week, and you get 2 rest days. If you'd like to put this type of routine together, you can check out the full program for free in the description, or watch the Ultimate Training Program video where I outline how you can create a routine based on your strengths and weaknesses. And if you're looking for one-on-one advice on how to prepare for selection, you can apply for coaching at the link in the description.